Let's rock and roll, boys.
Hello, everyone.
That's good. Go with that.
Welcome to another Nintendo podcast. I'm your host today, Matt Schultz, and I'm here joined by Austin Cummings.
Oh, hello. Hi.
And Andrew Watson.
Hello, hello.
Our boy Danny is in Cleveland, the land of Cleve, today.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Come back to us, Danny.
So much Cleve in that land.
Lots of
He'll be back, though. So today, we're actually super excited to talk to our boy Austin about his time at PAX West. But before we do that, we'll jump into a few other things. I know, sorry, I stopped you there. We're really pumped about that, but what have you all been playing?
Oh.
Austin, why don't you kick it off?
Well, Matt, thank you. And you know what? I appreciate that intro saying you're excited to hear from me because you know that I'm going to be chatting on this thing, whether or not you're excited, Andy's excited, any of the viewers excited. Well, I appreciate that, but I'm excited to be here, and I've been excited recently to play on the Switch Into the Breach, one of the Nindies we will chat about, but that has been scratching that turn-based tactical grid gameplay that has been so sorely lacking. We've talked about again and again with War Groove. Now, I want to say Into the Breach.
Big fans of War Groove on this podcast.
Big fans of the unreleased playable once War Groove game. Full endorsement. But Into the Breach is like a really fun just strategy element that uses some of those mechanics that I've been enjoying. So that's kind of what I've been playing. Andy, how about you?
I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells.
Spooky.
Yeah, it's so good though.
Yeah, I've actually seen you on playing that. Well, this is the game you were, I guess, gifted for house sitting, which you're currently doing right now.
Correct. So it only fits that I play it a lot.
Well, for the video listeners or watchers at home, Andy, why don't you just go ahead and take us on a tour around this person's house? Let's go ahead and see it. Let's see
I don't think they'd appreciate that.
Well, you know what? It's for the fans.
Well, before we started, Andrew did give me a nice little tidbit about the resident of the house he's currently watching, a celebrity, Andrew Phillison.
Yes, he is a celebrity. His name is Marshall. Marshall the Meow. Follow him on Instagram, everybody. He has more followers than most of my friends combined.
How many followers does this cat have?
11.5 thousand.
And for those of you keeping track of the numbers at home, that's 11.5 thousand more than another Nintendo podcast. That is impressive.
That's pretty cool. He's like a little celebrity, and he's really nice.
Yo, I think we should do a special episode when we get 10 followers. I think
10 subscribers.
Do like a recap of our journey.
Yeah, we'll do it like the final episode of Seinfeld or whatever, and it'll just be more or less just like a kind of maybe flashbacks revisiting key scenes, kind of and we'll put it all to like Green Day, Good Riddance, parentheses, time of your life. I think we will have really earned it. And Andrew, it's good to hear that the cat is nice too, because you hear these stories about the celebrities out there, and you think they're so full of themselves, and it's nice to like a down to earth one that you encounter. That's really affirming.
Someone you can really relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, Matt, what have you been playing? Great question, Matt. I've been playing a ton of Bad North.
Oh, he did it.
I've been playing so much of that game. So, Bad North, we've talked about a little bit on the show. It's not a role playing game, but it's or turn based, I should say. But it's it is kind of like a weird real time strategy game in the vein of like. Almost like Pikmin, except you're not a specific character on the map, but it just kind of feels like you've got all these little troops you're kind of shoving around this little island, and it's a ton of fun. But I actually ran into an issue. I got so far into the game, and then it just refused to load. Like my save files just stopped loading, and so I looked it up on their website, and sure enough, it was like their official website had like you might be experiencing the following, and it was like a full list of issues.
That's the end game when there's no more game.
One of them was like, enemies are invincible. You might, and then like a small description, the Vikings might not die, like making the game impossible to beat. I'm like, no, not that one. But
those are traditionally hard to defeat, hard to really take down those enemies per se.
Tough. The issue I was dealing with, obviously, was the loading issue. And then they revealed that, hey, a patch is coming. We're working on all this stuff. You might be experiencing this. I turn on the game the next day, and the loading screen is completely different. and everything's much snappier and faster. So it's a very fun game. There's a lot of like, it's like Animal Crossing strategy for me. It feels like, oh, I kind of want to relax right now, but also like,
that's a powerful drug for you.
I get really into this strategy game. So it's fun. It's also brutal. I will say that
they don't call it nice, North.
No, it is. No, it's bad.
I'm looking at the art style. It's really cool.
It's pretty beautiful.
That.
And I played it mostly when I first got it in handheld, and then I popped it onto the TV like the other night, and I'm like, why have I not been playing it like this? This is beautiful.
Really?
It's, I would say when it gets on, if it's on sale, which it will be eventually, it's definitely worth it. Right now it's $15 or $14.99.
Nice. That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad. I will say similarly on the technical hiccup thing, Into the Breach really enjoying, but it takes like a full minute of black screen when I boot it up from the Switch, which is a little alarming. And now we're on the cusp of like the save data backup, and I'm always worried there's going to be some critical Switch error that I encounter that like wipes everything. So it's really the countdown to the unknown date when that's finally going to launch, so I can feel a little bit more secure in my backup save progress. But that's good to hear, Matt. I have so many of the Nindies we'll be talking about just kind of loaded up on the Switch, and I worry I won't be able to get to most of them or give them the time they need. But just again and again, it's like especially even, Andrew, as you mentioned, for the Dead Cells, it's like these experiences, just as fun as the $60 counterparts on many of these occasions, but for the $15, $20 price point, it's just perfect to have there, especially with the caveat you always tell yourself it'll be good for that trip whenever it comes, or great for that vacation, or what have you. It's always accessible. So I like that.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our, our big talking point or story of the day, or whatever we're calling this. Austin goes to PAX West. So Austin, first of all, give us your overall thoughts, your overall experience, the atmosphere. Let's dive right in. Tell us about it.
Dish us the deets.
Here it is. Deet dishing, as you know, I like to do. Well, thank you for asking, Matt. PAX West. I went to PAX West 2018 in Seattle this last weekend and had a terrific time. I was there. I had the pleasure of going from Saturday through Monday. So I had 3 full days of PAX just to not make it to Friday. And my first time having gone to that particular convention. The other things I've been to have all been smaller, except for one brief San Diego Comic-Con thing. Doesn't matter. PAX was really wonderful. Let me tell you the favorite thing I have. I know I love Disneyland. I know Andrew feels the same way. We've traveled there a couple of times. Matt, you are a Disney fan, yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, of course. Yeah, I had that Super SoCal Saver Pass for years.
So much love put into their work.
Exactly. And one thing I love about the Disneyland are those pins that you can collect and trade around. And there's just so many, especially Disneyland. Of course, you're never going to get all of them, but PAX also has the very fun, like enamel pins that various booths have. Some of which you get from playing the game, some of which you get by using USD, American currency. And so I had a little column A, a little column B, but I had such a great time exploring these games. And it's just really so we're going to talk about Nintendo in a second, but just big picture on the convention. It was really clean. It was pretty well organized. The enforcers, the volunteers who were there were for the most part very nice. Like everything was moving. And I really appreciated that about it. A lot of fun, different showings from a lot of indies, which were really the highlight of the show, particularly because the bigger games just amassed huge lines. Even games like Dragon Quest, which came out yesterday, or like games like Spider-Man, which comes out Friday, just still had massive, massive lines. Some of them had swag that was very fun for me to collect.
Do you have any? You're going to show us any? Or?
Yeah, show all the listeners right now.
Well, I have my I have my lanyard around the corner, and I was kind of wearing it like this wonderful like trophy. What I can only imagine people who win athletic events might feel like when they're kind of wearing this thing. Not an experience I know as well, but I do know what it's like to wear a lanyard filled with like Cuphead pins and cat characters and other things I spent $15 on and do not regret. So had a great time at PAX, great show. But one of the big showings at PAX West was Nintendo's presence, right? So Nintendo of America is headquarters in Seattle, right? They've had a long-standing, or Bellevue perhaps, but in Washington, they've had a long-standing relationship with the city They back in the 90s purchased the Mariners. That was a cause of some debate and concern back in the day. But they've always had really this strong roots in the city, and their presence was similarly strong at the show. But I got to tell you, now you know me, and I just love throwing a. Now you know me. I just love. I know, and I just love throwing a big old softie right at the big end and just saying thanks for hanging around, thanks for being my friend. Thank you through thick and thin. But I gotta come down on it a little bit because it was a extremely mixed experience with Nintendo at PAX West, and we'll kind of get into it maybe even right now, but. Not so much, not anything to do with the people. Good, nice people. And
I was going to ask you that I was at PAX East and I was kind of, underwhelmed with Nintendo's presence at the event. I mean, it was such a small booth. It felt like, and with just like a massive, the line around it was larger than the booth itself, obviously. And
it was horrendous. and here's the thing about this, okay? On one hand, I get it. People are excited about Nintendo. Now, the way, for those of you who have not been, PAX works, at least in my experience, is that for these lines, they cap, right? Because of the fire code, they can only allow so many people in a certain line. So for the Devolver Digital booth, which was awesome, really cool with all these indies that were immediately playable on these, like, some of which had like kind of arcade cabinet looking things. There was like a big lounge area. Very awesome. Those lines wouldn't really cap because they only had they could only fit a couple people. But Nintendo had prime real estate really right when you walked in to the main hall, which is very cool. However, the way in which they managed people through the line was really awful because the games there were actually very good. So let me break it down. There were two different PAX Nintendo experiences you could have. Okay.
Yeah.
There was one. So of course I go into this. What's the game I want to play? Right off the bat. Obviously, it's Dragon Ball FighterZ with a Z. That's the game I wanted to play on Nintendo. Now, the big game I wanted to play was Smash. And as such, for Smash Bros. Ultimate, there was one line that was both that and Super Mario Party, so a good combo.
Right.
Wait, they mixed the lines?
Yeah, so that was for both. You got to do both games if you stood on that line. So it's a pretty good combo of two things.
That's nice.
And there was a really neat display to have the giant, that kind of canvas painterly image we've all seen be updated. That was there. It had all the new characters in it. Massive. It was on one of the walls of the hall. And there was the line there. So the first day, myself and my buddy, we were waiting, and because these lines cap, they do not tell people when they're going to uncap because they want people loitering and then being a fire risk. Okay. So what they do is they say, hey, this is how it works. And when we decide to let more people in, we're going to do it. This isn't on Nintendo. This is the people running it. But that one, here's the thing. That one, actually, the line was only about 30 to 45 minutes. Not bad compared to everything else in the show. A lot of things, I stood in many hours of lines for far less deserving games. That was still fun. But this wasn't that awful. But what they did is you'd wait in line, and then when they uncap it would be like kind of a musical chairs where everyone would rush to that area before they filled back up and said it was capped again. So it was kind of like everyone would pace around there and then be like, it's open. Everyone rush into line. And then, but this is for Smash, and this is the better of the two experiences. So what you do is you get to the front of the line, you get a little piece of paper, and you would play both Super Smash Brothers. First you play Mario Party, and then you play Smash in a group of 4. So that also helped the line keep moving because it was 4 people at a time. So for Mario Party, everyone got to pick their character, and then we played 5 mini games.
Ooh, what games did you play?
Yeah.
Okay, so for Mario Party, the first one was of the games, the first, I am currently a little blanking on the exact order, so I guess I'll just describe them. One of which was a couple of them were very basic fare, which is you just use the analog stick and you dodge things. So one was a race, and you're being trailed by these kind of boos, and it's a little bit of a maze, but you're just running left to right. Okay.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
Okay, another one, you're in this grid, and they're the characters that are kind of like the Hammer Brothers, but I'm sorry I don't know their name, but they're in the football uniforms that are rushing through on the grid. You got to avoid them. So things are just happening, and they're getting more and more frequent. And so those were very basic. The first one that I'm remembering now was something that I did enjoy about Mario Party. First of all, I have to say it looks really good. So the last few Mario Parties I feel have not looked very good.
Right.
They're all often made by Hudson, and they look just a little cheap. It feels like These are like stock
Off-brand
models.
Mario.
Off-brand Mario.
Yeah, it feels like that. It's like a little less loved. Whereas this actually had like really nice lighting effects. It truly looked like a cut above the Wii U version of Mario Party 10. And so, but the other 3 mini games that were not those two I just described, they used the Joy-Con. We were all playing a single Joy-Con as motion control. Okay,
Motion control.
one of which you were balancing on a log and trying to complete this race. I was very bad at that, and I was like certain that my controller was broken. And you know that I told everyone who would listen that that's the reason why I got last. Like that one I didn't really love. And then another one, they were like, it's just like riding a bicycle. You do this like swooshing motion with your hands. And I'm like, that is not riding a bike. And I did not do so well on that.
My arms.
But the best one and the best example of the game was one where you had a frying pan and you have this little steak cube. And on the 6 sides of the cube, you have to flip it and then grill it to a fine, medium rare, or well done, edge. And then you flip it again. And so but honestly, loved this mini game. First of all, it took great use of the HD rumble because you felt like it was sizzling in the pan. Like it truly was like, oh, the ice cube thing. Yeah, it was just rumble. I don't want to be that dramatic with it, but you could note, it was getting softer. It felt real, and then the way in which you flipped it felt authentic. I was like, okay, I'm going to flip it such a way to try to get it over onto its side. One rotation to the right, and it felt totally doable. I won that. I was extremely proud. Immediately texted my family, but I felt like I had made an intentional choice based on my real world experience that I was able to replicate accurately with the Joy-Con, and it was very fun. So enjoyed that. I also played as Rosalina because I think she was just great. Okay, then after that was Smash. Right. And I don't want to talk about it too much because we all have an idea of it, but it was with Pro controllers. And I have to say, Matt and I talked about this last episode, it was so hard to wrap my mind around the Pro controller, and I don't understand why. We've talked about, I liked the 3DS playing. It's just 3DS controller, right? But for whatever reason, like X and Y jumping, and it just, I couldn't really figure out what B was, even though, of course, it's just like, it was this barrier to entry. Now, unfortunately, the build did not have K. Rool or the Belmonts or anything. It just had Ridley and Inkling, so it was the same ones we've seen. I did play both Ridley, who I rocked it with. No idea what his special moves are. Sorry, I can't tell you. Check out Game Explain. And then, and the Inkling, also no idea what the moves are, and I did not do as well. But the game looks awesome. It looks snappy. It has the really fun character portraits, the drawn ones between the match starting.
Does it look noticeably different from Smash Wii U, Smash 4?
It looks better than Smash 4 in a way that does feel
how
noticeable.
You can feel the difference between Melee and Brawl between Wii U.
Yeah.
Can you feel the difference in this one, or is it?
I would say less so. The only thing I could feel that did feel different was that when you're applying damage to another character, that percentage felt like it was climbing really fast, which I know is maybe that climbs faster or something.
They did say they upped that or something, or when it's down to 1-1, you get hurt faster.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever's been changed, I did feel like I noticed it. I was also trying to take it kind of all in a short amount of time, so I imagine I get used to it, but it felt like people were getting knocked around more quickly or more noticeably, but I also felt like most characters were able to recover maybe more so. In any event, it did feel a little bit different, and it looked like HD, which of course the last one was, but it did feel like there was an extra layer of polish, even though it didn't look dramatically different.
Right.
But the Inkling played great. Ridley played great. I was really impressed. And just other little tweaks that were able to be observed, but fun to get. I mean, all the elements were on display. Don't want to bemoan it, but definitely, was impressed with that experience.
So you saw it played handheld at all too?
No, I only could play on the TV mode. The 4 of us. So now let me just kind of jump in, if it's right with you guys, with the other Nintendo experience.
The bad one?
The bad one. The bad North Nintendo experience. And that is that basically there were 2 lines. And the other line, each day of the 3, my buddy and I, we were there 2 hours before the convention opened, with hopes of getting right to the Nintendo line.
Right.
Okay? And each day we would fail at this invariably. And we'd be like, okay, tomorrow we're going to do better. And we get there a little earlier the next day. And then we get there, line is capped. So the 3rd day, we're like, this is our last chance. We got to do it. They have an exclusive Diablo pin. I'm going to need that. And then also, it's Nintendo. I, of course, want to do it. Want to talk about it on the show. And so we get there at 8 a.m. and there isn't a huge line in front of us, but we're like, okay, these people are probably all going to Nintendo. We're probably screwed. And sure enough, we got in there at 10. Immediately, the line was capped.
Rough.
Okay? So here is the rub, and this is where I got to take Nintendo to task. Not only was it capped right away, okay, they have a popular thing going on. But what would be the obvious solution to this? It would be to move the line along in a reasonable manner such that everyone gets a chance to play the games, right? At least keep it moving, even if it takes an hour or so for it to be uncapped. But here's the problem. In there, you got a little token or another piece of paper to fill out, just like for the Smash Bros. And Mario Party one. The difference is with the Mario Party one, you went in, four-player Mario, they called you up, they said, okay, we need one more person, kind of like getting on a ride at Disneyland, or they need like a single or whatever.
We need a double.
Did it, they moved you on to the next one, they did it, and they kicked you out. This one, there were like a dozen games you could play on display, okay? And of them, there were Pokemon, Let's Go, there was Diablo, there was also Starlink, there was Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, Hyper Light Drifter, the SNK game, Dragon Ball, as well as a couple of Nintendo.
That's a real good selection.
But the way it works was you got to choose 6 games to play as a demo, okay? And each one you got to play for 15 minutes. So that's an hour and a half of being in the booth, which is a very long time because there were grand total, they could only let 40 people in at a time. So 40 people are spending an hour and a half there. But here's the other catch. There was no one moving you through, so you just got to walk around at your leisure. And it was kind of a chicken and the egg thing because it's like, okay, well, once you waited for so long.
That was their setup on the East Coast, too, was just here's a room.
Yeah, but you're only taking your time because it took you so long. So if one of them were fixed, you would probably solve it. But instead, it was way too many games for way too long. Some of the demos didn't have hard caps. So like I was playing I eventually got in, spoilers. But I did not get into this thing until 4 p.m. And I spent the entire rest of the day at 10 a.m. pacing around the line until they uncapped it. And I was like trying to befriend the people. There were some people cutting, but no one was willing to like enforce any rules. And so that was frustrating. And also because I love a good rule, as Matt and I can attest from the RA Live. But then on top of that, so that was frustrating. And then so when I got in the line at noon, so it took the hour and a half for the initial people to cycle through before they advanced the line, right? But I wanted to make sure I was the first one there, and I was the first one let in. But then they only let in for the rest of the day, which went till 6 p.m., about 50 more people. So and then they capped it almost immediately again. So, and 50 might even be an exaggeration. There were so few people besides that initial capping that were allowed in because you could just walk around as you pleased. And the issue is, okay, you get in there. Not all 6 of the games are created equally, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not everybody wants to play some of
you got the ones you want. That's it.
Right. So people then invariably created new lines within there where they're like watching someone play Starlink or like Hyper Light Drifter didn't have a hard end cap time. So I asked the guy, he's like, only 2 people have beaten it today. And I was like, oh, I wanted to beat it. And he's like, but in fairness, the first guy took over half an hour. He was like, I'm not leaving until I beat it. And he like had a lull about it. And like, that's the issue. Everyone was just hanging around for
way too
forever.
long.
There was no one shuffling you through. You just went around. And when you felt like you were done, you left. And for that reason, there was probably a grand total of like 250 people that saw that booth the entire day. And there's 30,000 people or whatever at PAX. So it's like it was just insanity. And I waited all day. I was glad to have done it on the final day, but it would have been a huge waste of time. Now, let me tell you, I know this is a really long segment for me, so thanks for your patience. But like the Ubisoft group, okay, you went to them in the morning, and you could sign up for a session later in the day. That's how I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Awesome.
And then you go and explore the day, and you come back at your time. That would have been an easy way for Nintendo to have mitigated this and still kept it at their very long play demo thing. At least if you could sign up, I wouldn't have spent my entire day waiting because it was painful. It was awful. And it also makes, then I had this Diablo pin, which everyone was, I got a lot of remarks on, which was very exciting, but no one could get it, mm-hmm. And so I do have it and I will grab it in a second, but that was kind of the experience of the day. I have more things to say, but one of you has to talk because we need to break it up.
Well, did you play Diablo at all or no?
I did play Diablo, and you could play it 4-player or solo or whatever. And because it was just kind of like whoever wanted to play at the time because it was not being ran in some type of efficient way. I played Diablo, and I'll say this: I played it on the TV mode, and it played fluidly. It played at 60. I totally had fun doing it. That said, TV mode, kind of contrary, Matt, to your Bad North experience, Diablo, I think, suffered a bit in that mode. I did have a moment when I was choosing the characters where I like waited to be like, oh, like an Unreal Engine game, like are the textures going to load in on top of these characters? And they did not. Meanwhile, when I looked at the handheld mode, which myself being a good rule follower, man of God, I did not like then also treat myself to playing in handheld mode, but it looked sharper. You couldn't tell that. So it played well. I totally enjoyed the demo. I'm excited. And it had a huge presence at PAX. So that was neat to see as well. There were a lot of events based on this Switch edition. People were excited about it. It was like their marquee thing. And that was cool to see them support the rated M game. Like that was neat on the Switch. But so I played that. I was going
to say, I have questions about Starlink. Did you get a chance to play it? Mm-hmm. If so, what are your impressions just off the bat? Like instant buy? Like you've got it pre-ordered already? You stole the R-Wing on your way out?
I told you. Let's not bring that up on the podcast. Okay, this is my thought on Starlink. So I was very excited for Starlink. First of all, this show, as we know, heavily endorses it. Here we go, boys, or let's rock and roll, boys. So it looked I have some mixed thoughts on it. Not necessarily in a negative way, but some question marks. I have to say the toys, which I won't be buying, that hook onto the controller and you customize, were very cool. Like the way it worked, their toys are modular in that like there's these little pegs you very easily snap on and off pieces, and people would snap on even an extra wing.
It shows
and then
up.
It would immediately appear in the game, and it would like start spinning, or they put on 2 extra wings.
And you can put them on backwards and stuff. You can put all this stuff on.
You can put it on backwards. If you can combine the weaponry, like the flamethrower and the phase on blast to create like a combined effect. Very cool. But I'll say this, and I know this is sacrilegious based on where we talk about Star Fox, and we said we just want another core Star Fox 64, if not Star Fox Adventures game, right? But here's the thing. When I was playing it, and although I didn't want to be this way, and I thought I hadn't submitted, I found myself each time, unintentionally, but moving the controller to try and like angle the reticle, or like I was trying to implement my motion controls I've been trained on from 64DS, 3DS, or from Star Fox Zero. I wanted to move the cursor that way, and I was sorry that there weren't some degree of motion control. Star Fox Zero goes way overboard with it, but
it helps. So
I missed that for sure, and also because the way the game is set up, like the left trigger and the right trigger are both your independent guns because you're using them for combos. And you can put in a different toy on each one, but it doesn't. It feels a little different.
Surprising, it doesn't take advantage of that
Fox.
A technology in the Pro controllers and in all the controllers. Really, like I feel like that's something that Nintendo has done so well.
I asked the Ubisoft rep this, and he said that right now the only one that he was told about, the only exclusive feature is the R-Wing, which of course I played as, and Star Fox as a character. And what I did like about Starlink is each one of the heroes, they're very well animated. They look cartoonish, but they're lively. And looking around, they say some lame things, but who doesn't? And but it does. Guilty. That had like a really good look to it, and it had a fun like No Man's Sky element as well, where it's like you're out in space, and then you have this like planetary entrance, and you just drop in, and it worked pretty smoothly. It wasn't quite as grand as I felt No Man's Sky did, even though it was loading. It looked cool in No Man's Sky. It wasn't quite like that, but there's also 3 modes of flying. There's like a strafing on the ground almost, but you're just hovering. There's like a flying that's more like all range mode in Star Fox, and then there's like the planetary element. And I could see with some practice it playing pretty well. It stuttered pretty badly on the Switch, but I have to think this is just an old build. I can't imagine they're going to release the game like that. It looked.
I hope there's some sort of demo that comes out for that game. Because I want to download it just straight up. I went back and forth like over the last couple of days after you sent me that photo of Starlink and you in front of the booth. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, like this has been sitting in my like Amazon wish list. This $80 version with the R-Wing
for sure.
And when you sent me the photo of the R-Wing, I think is that where I saw it? Did you send me that picture, or did I just look it up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the controller with the massive.
Oh, okay. So if you've listened to our podcast, you know that was my biggest concern was playing with a controller that rises up over your hands by like 5 or 6 inches. It's weird. It's weird, but the just having that sitting on your shelf looks pretty cool.
For sure. Like, I would intend to play the game digitally, in which case they weren't totally sure, the person I had spoken with, about how it was exactly going to work. But yes, I wonder if you remove the toy element, is it still as fulfilling? It seemed like there were interesting upgrade paths and ways to customize, even within the digital version, and mix and match between ship types.
I think you can still do everything
that
you could before.
I think you definitely must be able to, but I guess my question is, like, if they release extra ship toys, how does the digital like, am I buying DLC for them, or, you know, how does that work? Is the game as fun without, like, what is
it's
impressive?
Probably the game's just probably always updated. I mean, they probably will ship a new batch of ships, and then even if you didn't buy them, you know, your game's probably updated. Yeah. No, I probably, unless it's like a DLC thing for the toys. In any event, that's a little bit of a question mark. I did like it, and it looked good, and it was totally exciting to have the R-Wing, and the figure was really cool. So that was all positive in the ways that I expected. I think the flying, I did expect it to be closer to what I know of Star Fox. You know, even though we talk about Adventure is a very different game than Assault, which is very different than 64, the flying feels similar, right? Oh, yeah.
Like, the way in which the reticle moves in relation to the ship feels repeatable, and because it wasn't, that was the only thing that kind of threw me. But still interested. It was just a little bit not quite the obvious, like, slam dunk that I felt, but it was very popular. It was the first game to sell at the Ubisoft booth as far as registrations go. So each day. So people are definitely interested, which was neat. I want to talk about one more thing in a second, but I know this is like a whole lot, so go ahead.
I was going to say, if you got a chance to actually find and play Wargroove. Not the Nintendo booth, obviously, but
not there.
No, they said they were.
Unless it was there, it was very hidden. But I checked them on Twitter and stuff, and
I thought I read that they were going to be at PAX West. Maybe they were on Xbox instead. That's how I played them.
Maybe they were at Gamescom or something. I looked. I did not see them though, but that doesn't rule it out. There was a lot going on, especially when you spend like a just grotesque amount of time in a single 8 hours in Nintendo Live to play 15 minutes of Diablo 3. Last thing I want to talk about on the PAX is I did play Pokemon Let's Go. And so I played Pikachu Edition, and my thoughts on this were I was totally impressed by it for two reasons. One, it does look great. And even like it looks more visually impressive than I expected it to, because I took the Pokemon battle scenarios to be like, okay, this is like Pokemon Go on the phones, right? And the models are definitely the same, but like there was a layer of texturing to the characters that was not obvious in the videos I'd watched, and it was like Pikachu when you're fighting with him and you see that iconic Pikachu behind. It was just like you could see like you can make out a little bit of like fur or texture. It looked way more detailed. It looked much sharper than I expected. And the other thing I just want to talk about is the Pokeball Joy-Con, which all the demos had, was really cool. So I don't know if it's going to hold up as something I'd want to play the entire game with, which is my big question mark leaving it, because it felt like good for a demo. I don't know if I want to play 20 hours. But you use the button of the Pokeball is the circle pad, right? And you can click that in as the A button. And then the top of the Pokeball in the red area is the B button. So you have that right off the bat. And apparently I was told every action can be completed in the game just with the Pokeball controller. So like something about if you hold both buttons or shake it, they weren't sure, you can hit like the Y button that way, things like that. But the Pokeball, like, it had a great weight to it. It's small, but like it also has a light on the front of it that as the Pokemon was kind of shaking the Pokeball back and forth while I was catching it, the light illuminated different colors.
See, that's so cool.
And when you capture it, the color matches the type of the Pokemon. Out of the speaker on the Pokeball, it makes the cry of the Pokemon as if it's in there, just struggling, screaming for help to be released and free once more.
That's kind of annoying.
Was like that. It was really neat. I don't think you do it every time, but when you capture it,
it's a game noise, not the show noise.
Right.
Yeah, the game noise. It doesn't. A Pikachu says Pika.
Wait, so not the like actual red, blue, yellow.
No, it's not. It's not like Charmander. No, it's like the cry. It's the cry noise they make. Square. It unfortunately did not do that. I'd be willing to do VO if they need it, but no, it does like that.
Yeah, like they're like 8, 12, or 16-bit. Like I don't know. It just kind of seems like a
whatever the heck demon speaker that Game Boy produced in order to do it.
Cat walk on the piano.
Yeah, and you're like, that's Snorlax.
Great. No, I actually prefer that over anything else.
And catching with the ball, it's a little more simplistic than Go. I asked if I could like put a spin on the throw, and they said I currently cannot, which did not bode well. Like you can't like curveball it.
Did you feel like you'd have fun with this game overall, though? If you're sitting down, sure,
definitely. And I could see myself like going back and forth between using the ball and using normal controls, because there was an element of like selecting on the menus or talking to people that felt less intuitive to click the ball. Like I wished, in fact, that I went up to people and there'd be like an icon over their head when I was like close enough, because you do feel like you're sacrificing some level of control utilizing the ball. But when you throw it, apparently it can tell like how quickly, like what type of, you can lob it or kind of shoot it, fire it in a more of a straight direction.
But you can't curve it?
I could curve it in that, like I could throw it at an angle, but I couldn't like curve it like you can on the game. So that was not to my knowledge there. But the ball itself...
Did you try spinning the joystick on it?
I didn't design the game. No, they said currently I couldn't, but I didn't try that.
Does it use the HD rumble? Or
I feel
is it
like
just
it's a Joy-Con in the shape of a Pokeball.
It felt very rumbly
LEDs
and weighty. It's hard. HD rumble is hard to tell, because some games you would say this is just normal rumble, and some you'd say, oh, they're really doing something special with those, magnets or whatever.
So are you okay? So this is what I want to ask you really quick then. So you kind of detailed your experience overall. You talked about a few Nintendo games.
Yeah, I'm done talking about my first part of my PAX experience, part 1 of 5. Yeah, continue.
So if right now you were going to pre-order any game that you saw, it could be multiple games, what based on having some hands-on experience with it now, seeing some of the hype for it, seeing it like visually, how they look in real time, what are you going to buy for sure now that you maybe you went in not thinking you would?
Okay, I would say I was always a lock for Pokemon and Smash, for sure.
Right.
I think Mario Party impressed me more than I expected, especially the HD Rumble and the looks. That'd be one.
Okay.
Another thing that was really impressive, I think Diablo and how smoothly it ran, and the potential for the 4-player thing was very exciting, and I loved the support I got behind it. Okay. I also really enjoyed playing Hyper Light Drifter.
Okay.
But as far as big surprises that were really surprising, 3 Nindies. One, the unannounced Goose game was a big hit at the show. I waited like over an hour to play it, and it was also at the Nindies booth. And funny and charming and cute and beautifully animated, colorful. You had all these funny tasks you have to complete. Your little goose in like what feels like an English countryside, or like a smaller community certainly, and you get to, the way in which you bend over, pick stuff up or down, or kind of honk to distract the individual, so you can complete this list of things that are like put rake in lake, like very basic instructions, or like picnic, like go on a picnic. Like,
do they rhyme? Do a lot of them rhyme?
They are written like in a tongue-in-cheek way, which was cute, because then it's like vague enough that you have this small sandbox where it's like, okay, there's this farmer here, and I'm distracting him, and I'm turning on the hose that gets him to come outside, which unlocks the gate. And when he unlocks the gate, I'll steal his keys. And then when he's chasing for the keys, I will hide in the bush, which then allows, when he bends down to look, me to take his hat, and that completes one of the challenges. That type of thing. And it looked beautiful. It looked really awesome and was cute and funny. And honestly, my friend said this to me. We're waiting in line. Everyone who walked by, no one was talking about Pokemon. Barely anyone was talking about Diablo besides that sweet pen. Everyone was talking about Untitled Goose Game. That was easily like the game of show. They had this button that everyone was getting. It was like a huge button that had a big goose with the kind of cross out, the red strike through on it. Like, hugely impressed in a way that I was like, oh, take it or leave it. And I was like, I definitely want to play this. So that was one. Two, a game that was announced at PAX, Gato Roboto, excuse me. And that's a cat in a Metroid Samus suit. And it looks like a Game Boy Metroid 2 type game. It's black and white. It's like 8-bit. Totally cute and funny. And plays a little bit like a Cave Story. But it's more of a Metroidvania where there's this tiny demo. I talked to the developer for a while. It's like a team of just a couple dudes out. They're European of some sort. And it's just like, they're like, yeah, we love Blaster Master and Metroid and Cave Story and just these various other indie games I'd never heard of, and it was charming and a huge highlight. And the little demo was funny. You're like this cat. You're literally in a Samus outfit. You're getting these upgrades. You're fighting like a mouse that's like squeak squeak, and you're getting like missions from your commanding officer, who's like your owner, and who's like gotten hurt because you like knocked over you like walked across the keyboard and he was flying his ship, and now you like have to save him basically. And it looked great, sounded great, big hit. And the third one is Gris or Grease, but I assume Gris, Gris. It was at one of the Nindy Directs, I believe, and it's this beautiful like painterly looking, almost Fantasia looking girl, and she's doing this platformer, and it had this huge Devolver Digital screen, massive line. I was never able to play it, but it would be playing and people would just stop and watch. It was like really visually totally stunning. So Gris, got a Roboto, and then Untitled Goose games for the big hits. Also shout out to Shovel Knight and the Yacht Club games, of which they had all their demos for the new Shovel Knight content, which were also awesome. And they have a battle mode that's a little bit like Smash, and it was really fun.
Nice.
And it comes out free if you own Treasure Trove in April.
I do feel like that's like fine, you're not going to put me in Smash, we'll make our own Smash.
I know. The battle mode was really fun, though. And the King of Cards, there's a King Knight campaign, and there's also a little card game that's like a puzzle game. It's not about cards and numbers as much as like placing tiles that can shift in certain ways. Really fun little puzzle element. So that was really
That's interesting
too. And
that
more
they're
free
kind of
content.
Branching out and doing different things with their character.
And I talked to the devs. There were a few devs from Yacht Club there, and I was like, "Can't believe you guys are still putting it out. I feel bad for you guys that all these are free." And they're like, "Yeah, we feel bad for us too, but we're glad you like it." And they were funny about it in the demos. They're just really excited, and they looked great, and they were polished, and they kept their line moving, and so that was exciting, but more of a known quantity. But those other three games were real highlights.
Wow. Well, that was a lot of PAX West information. I feel like I was there. How about you, Andrew? Do you feel like you were in the lines, like frustrated, just like Austin?
I don't want to stand in a line till Christmas. Not until Christmas.
Imagine that rant I just gave for 8 hours straight.
No, my PAX East experience was, we showed up at noon. Look at the Nintendo booth. It's pretty packed. All right, we'll just go and like walk around and do everything else but Nintendo. Or did they have the large like mega screen for Smash? Like
No.
that they would bring like players up and they would have it. They had that at PAX East. And what were they playing? It was for Splatoon specific.
Oh, neat. I went to a kind of funny event, and they did have that type of thing there as like a surprise thing for the tournament, but which was awesome. People were so excited.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo or someone tweeted that out, and it was with the kind of funny guys. Did you enjoy it? Was it fun?
Totally fun. Greg Miller did a good job keeping that running. It was games enthusiasts from all over the internet, from Giant Bomb to Game Explain and IGN, all there competing in this funny Switch indie I'd never heard of, some sports champions game that was like a big lull, and then they played Overcooked 2 as part of this the tournament they're running, and then it ended with Smash, and everyone was so excited, and it just brings back why I'm so excited to play a Smash game, let alone one on the Switch, because the energy was so high. It was so fun to have everyone, thrilled when the game came out. Everyone knows these characters. And still is able to use their mains from the previous games, but now there's new courses and new visuals, and it just reignited that passion for the game that was like so fun in a big crowd, that it wasn't quite in the same as remarkable as 4 people, and it was exciting, but that really reminded like, wow, this will be so fun to have and settle it in Smash at a moment's notice.
Well, it's cool. I mean, PAX West sounded really fun. Sounds like you got to do a lot of just like cool exploring of different booths and talking to different developers. We didn't get any cool little interviews, did we? No,
I regretted actually. I should have done it because Matt did a great job for us. I should have done it when I talked to the Gato Roboto guy. And because we talked for like a while, and then I was like, I really should have recorded this. But the next time, I will make the effort to.
Next time, just go like, Siri, record this, and pop it in your shirt pocket.
Right. I am wearing a wire at all times, so I could just use that feed.
So I think that I don't know. I feel like we've covered a lot in terms of PAX West. I think we're gonna jump into some of this other stuff maybe in the next one. You think?
That sounds great.
All right. Well, for all your PAX needs. Stay tuned to us for years to come as we go to the 2 of them that are offered.
I think there's a PAX South and there's like a PAX Australia, so we might need to use that ANP credit card that we all have access to and really send someone on one of the next business trips.
When is PAX South? And where is it? Texas?
Australia.
Oh, Vegemite here.
We're just being super problematic for all of our Australian listeners.
Fictitious Australian.
PAX South, January 18th to the 20th. Who's going? We're sending Andrew, I think. Now,
Andy, you're on it. You're on
San
it.
Antonio. You've always wanted to go, right?
Texas. I actually used to live in Texas, but I don't remember it because I was so young.
Well, there you go. You got some people that you want to go see, right?
You got Reggie.
Anyway, so this has been another Nintendo podcast, episode 14. Thank you so much, Austin, for all of your great detailed stories and perspective on your time at PAX West. Andrew, thanks for watching that house there. Someone needs to watch it. That cat needs someone to feed it grapes and fan it. And thanks to me for being such a great host and listening to Austin's every word. Until next time, this has been another Nintendo podcast.
You're listening to the soundtrack of Into the Breach by Subset Games.